The metal door thing, like you said, it's go to the next house. These folks aren't necessarily the most committed. They're looking for the quickest, easiest route. And some of this stuff leads to home invasion. So it's not just property, it's safety as well, okay? So upon being promoted to commander, I went to the Family Advocacy Center. I was at the FAC, okay? And in charge of all the violent crimes, all the property. Recently, as of right this second, and then coming officially this Saturday, I'm in charge of the Northwest Area Command. We have had commanders come and go, okay, throughout the last few years, and they wanted more of a long-term fixed solution to that. I've got 4 years to go. My Detroit time doesn't count, so I've been here 16 years, and 4 as a lieutenant, 8 as a sergeant, and 3 in patrol. And I've got 4 to go before I'm eligible to retire. So you got me for 4 for sure. And if I can do the stretch, God willing, down the backside, I'd like to stay till 25 years, so 9 years from now. So if you'll have me, I'd like to be here that long. So that is something that is rare. It's somebody at my rank to be around for that length of time, to have that the amount of service time yet to go. So I'm not thinking short term. I'm trying to think short term, mid-term, and long term to these solutions. I don't like seeing things repeat themselves over and over again. Same stuff, same this, not different solutions. Very community driven, community policing, police the community together, the whole thing. I dig all that, but we got to stop crime. Okay, we can't let that just continue to go on. The citizens, you guys have issues, and we're not fixing them. Somebody give me a call. Okay. We're going to be responsive. The Northwest Area Command, I can guarantee you that we are responsive, and we're going to continue to be responsive to the needs that you have. I take it personal. I mean, I live here. My kids live here. My dad just retired here from Michigan, finally got him out of there. 73 years old, finally gave up his 2 police careers and decided he'd come retire, and he's my neighbor. So. I have a vested interest in this whole thing, not just from a career standpoint, from an actual, just human being standpoint in the community. So I see these stories on the news, and they upset me just like they do you. I see my auto theft guys, and I say my auto theft guys have just left that division, just had a casket stolen. Somebody actually left a car at a hotel, had somebody's body in it, a casket, stole it. And our auto theft detectives found the casket, got the person the body. I mean, can you imagine the lack of closure you'd have for something like that? I mean, it's such a huge deal. I mean, the dispatchers were emotional about it. I mean, it was a big deal, but, we got on top of it and we found them. A lot of these special operations I've been in charge of when it comes to the property crime side of Balloon Fiesta at all the hotels. 500 of the guests that come to Balloon Fiesta, we lock down 22 hotels that they're going to stay at and protect their run an operation and make sure that they come out and they can go fly the balloons. It's from all over the world. We run those operations. The holiday operations in the Northwest, we'll be running those coming up here around our shopping malls, our strip malls. We know where the crime is moving to because we get briefed weekly on the movement of the crime. So we have an undercover, detectives that work for us that are assigned to us that we can put in place in there with uniform patrol. Coming from 12 years of investigations experience myself, and then another 12, 14 years of experience in patrol as a uniformed police officer, I get both sides of this. So we'll use both sides to our advantage and do what we have to do to make sure the community's safe. It's that simple. That's our product is safety. So that's the way I view it. Questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, 2. What's the new role of our lieutenant who's been here for a while? And does he stay with you? And secondly, I was going to cover this, but your opinion, you hear gunfire, what should you do? What should these people in the room do?
Okay, well, first of all, yes, he's going nowhere. He's too good. So I'm not letting, he's not getting out of here. So yeah, no, he's on lockdown. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. He's in charge of our PAC team. Okay, so our police and community together team that is actually involved in heavily these types of programs, these type of events, these type of speaking engagements. That's his primary focus. Okay, so he's the other day shift command level personnel that's working when I'm working. So the answer to that is yes, he's staying, and I'll try to keep him forever if I can. And that hopefully that answers that. As far as gunfire is concerned, it depends on where you're at. I mean, when you look at what just happened in Las Vegas, I mean, you're looking at a situation where, you know, things were so out of, you know, your mind has no point of reference when something like that happens. You don't think, well, maybe the person's, you know, across the street a half mile away. Your mind's not thinking that. People are still playing on the band, you know, on the stage, because they've never saw that. They've never seen that. So the mind's not going, hey, maybe this is going on, because it never has seen it. Well, unfortunately, we need to take some mental reps when it comes to these types of topics, because you could be at the mall and you hear this, and the first thing we think to do is, that's probably fireworks. That's probably somebody slamming a car door. That's probably something else, because it's too scary to think. Maybe it is gunfire. Maybe somebody is shooting. Go with your gut the first time. If you gotta, you know, it's like answering somebody's knocking on your door and you look out and you're, yeah, I don't get a good feeling. Go with your gut. Stick with your instincts, okay? Those will do you better justice than your mind going, oh, it's probably not this. It's probably not this, until you're convinced, oh my gosh, there it is this. So time is, it's a quick thing. One of our detectives were actually at that event when this happened, one of our robbery detectives, in the crowd while this was going on. And he actually told me the break by break, the moment by moment, as he got his wife moving through the crowd and pulling people to the ground and trying to do what he could do to keep as many people safe as he could, and still attempt to move out of what we would consider to be the kill zone, which is that area where that fire is being concentrated. So we do train on issues such as this, not necessarily from a high rise, but when it comes to an active shooter. If somebody that's firing, you know, since, you know, the Columbine High School, okay, where we just used to contain and limit the scope of these type of events, we actually go in and we get a quick team together, and we go in and we move to the gunfire in these events where there are people shooting. So if, let's say you're in the mall and somebody's firing, my first opinion to you would be get out of the mall if you can do so safely, immediately. Get away from the mall. If you can't do that, find a place that you can barricade yourself where somebody can't see or hear you. Okay, that's the second thing. Because we will come, but we need time to get there and move to basically the threat. Go ahead.
Just kind of intervene too. We're having some events at the Taylor Ranch Library. They've actually reached out to us to ask us those very questions and what they can expect in terms of an APD response and what we need them to do that would be helpful in our response. And they have been somewhat the facilitator of setting this up with their personnel. I think the issue that happened in Clovis kind of put a scare into them, so they thought this is something that we need to do. But understand that's something that we can set up for you in terms of that type of, just to talk about how we would respond and what we would expect out of you. But those two events are occurring. They're actually 2-day events. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm looking at it right now. On October 16th at 4 p.m., we're going to be addressing that. And then again on October 18th, on October 18th at 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., and that's at the Taylor Ranch Library. Now, it's something that's just going to be exclusive to what they would do, but the response would be similar, if not the exact same, if we were to hold something here and do something like that. So if that's something that you're interested in, Pete can facilitate that, and we can provide what we need to provide.
And I think we should, Commander, we've got to shorten this up.
We'll wrap it up then. So in closing, without getting into too much of the minutia of those type of events, I'd just say, first of all, trust your instincts right out of the gate, okay? If you hear something, assume it's what you think it is right at first, and move out of the area, move away, you know, get some distance. You know, some of the mistakes that have been made, we just got to learn from. You see these things happening, you know, in Paris and these other places. Don't assume it can't happen here, because it can. It can happen anywhere. It can happen in Las Vegas, right? It can happen anywhere, and that's what the world just realized in one evening. So back to Albuquerque and right here and right now. I'm very proud to be here. This is a welcome change for me after 12 years inside and in investigations. I'm happy to be back out into patrol in uniform, working in an area command. And I live in the Northwest, I always have. And you know, for me, this is my home. When I looked for a house here, when I first moved here, this is where I went. This is where I came to. And for me, it's just it's where I'm raising my family. So I hope that means something. But I can tell you this. we will do everything in our power to be responsive to any and every crime problem that you folks have in your neighborhoods. And there won't be a time that we're not going to just address it. We will. It may take some time. Some of these, they don't go away overnight, and then sometimes they get displaced. You attack it here, it moves, right? It goes to another area. We're looking for that. We're looking for those types of things so we can actually get these people in custody. Lastly, I'll tell you, we've had a big problem with prosecutions in the past. We've had people being released from jail, as you know, if you've been watching the news. Violent felons just being released without any bail. We are working hard with our federal partners to take those people federally. Somebody's found with a gun, they've committed a violent felony, take them through the federal court system. So they're getting 5-10 years instead of a year of probation. That's really a huge difference. And Violent Crimes is working on that now, Central Investigations, and our impact is same thing. We've got connections with the ATF and our federal partners, and we will do everything we can to take the most violent individuals that are within our community off the streets, because that's the only way we're going to eventually fix this. Auto theft, same thing. I'd pay attention to every single thing they said, because it is an epidemic. It's huge. We were involved in one of the largest operations ever about 4 years ago. It was called Vinapalooza. You can look it up. Our detectives got in there. It was involved the Sinaloa drug cartel. They stole 1,800 cars in just a couple of years from Albuquerque, and we made 22 arrests in one day as we raided 12 houses simultaneously with the feds, National Guard helicopters overhead. I mean, it was a big deal, and those folks, we were able to put them in, lock them up and take their assets. So we understand the problem is here, and we're working every angle we can in addition to all these other quality of life issues. So you got a good partner in this, and I'll tell you that. And we need you more than ever, and we'll be here for you as you raise your hand and need us. We'll be here for you. Go ahead.
Thank you for running the VIN etching.
Etching, yes.
Those, keep doing them as much apathy as there is in the city, but keep doing them because they're very effective in helping to.
What are you going to do to help ours?
What I'll do is, actually, we have a list. If you call 311 at any time, they'll tell you when your next VIN etch is. Just call them and say, hey, when's the next VIN etch? Where's it at? We try to rotate them around the city. I know there's 2 or 3 planned coming up here. They can't run them in the winter. It's too cold. We can't get the acid to read through the windshield. It's just too cold. So there'll be one more probably before winter kicks in, before it's too cold. So you can check with that. I can get it to you guys if you want. You can put it on your website. But I'll definitely get you a link to that video. And I think the whole door kick issue will be solved once they watch that 3 or 4 minute special the news did. It's really good. So hey, thank you again. I appreciate your time.
What I've asked to speak to you about today is, what do you do when you call 911? First of all, 911 is for life-threatening in progress emergencies, and 242 COPS is for everything else. I have usually, like right now, I have 14 operators on duty. 911 calls are always answered first. 242 COPS are answered later. We have 12 people in training and 16 vacancies. So it's been challenging to staff, and we're staffing through overtime and a lot of mandatory overtime. But the people who work there want to help you. That's why they've applied for the job and gone through the process. They have to go through almost the same process as the officers do, except we don't have to do the physical challenge. But we have to do a background and a drug screen and a hearing test because we need to hear. But when you're calling us, we need you to listen to us. You're not calling us on your best day when you're calling 911. That's a known. So let us ask the questions. And even if you don't know the answer to the question, it is okay to say, I don't know, and we'll move on to the next question. But you'd be amazed in the studies that they've done how often when we ask a question, you might think you didn't see the vehicle. Oh yeah, it was a red car and it had a dent on the left side, and you might give us a ton of information. So when you call 911, if we're asking a question, it's not that we're asking it and stopping the response until you answer every one of our questions. When you're calling with an emergency, the first things we're going to ask is where, what happened, are weapons involved, and is anybody injured? And then the operator will put the call into the computer system and send it to the dispatcher so the dispatcher can send out officers. So it's not a game of where you have to get 20 questions right before we're going to start somebody. We're not the ones that have to hang up the phone and send somebody. The 911 operator will stay on the phone with you during an emergency call. The dispatcher is the one that will be sending and will be talking to the officers about it. So that's the brief of it. I have, and I'll leave them here, I brought my business cards and 2 handouts, one that talks about what to do when you call 911. And there's also an article about whether to keep your cell phone or not. Right now, nationally, 84% of 911 calls are cellular, which is very challenging for me in my world because I get a latitude, longitude of where you're calling from. That may be accurate if you're in the middle of a field, but if a couple of us called 911 from inside this building, it's not necessarily going to pinpoint exactly where you are, that you're in this specific room. So talking to you and you're telling us where you are. How many times do you drive along the freeway? I went to Ruidoso for the first time last week. Beautiful place, by the way, for a 911 directors conference. But as I was driving, I realized if I had to call 911 right now, I'm not sure I could tell anybody where I'm at, what exit I'm at, what the landmarks are. So be aware of your surroundings. Even if you don't know a specific address, if you can give us cross streets and say that you're 500 feet to the west or something, be able to know where you're calling from and pay attention to your surroundings so we can start help, because our system works off addressing. It's not the psychic network, it can't just figure it out, and we can't ping your cell phone unless we have exigent circumstances to do so. So if you're on the phone with us and you've called 911 and you hang up, you have now allowed us for a brief period of time the possibility of pinging your cell phone to find out where you are. But if you have not called 911, we have to have very specific circumstances to ping your cell phone. So we'll have people call and say, my spouse hasn't come home yet and is running late. We don't necessarily, in that circumstance, I can't ping your cell phone. Cell phones will allow you to turn off the location information. That doesn't turn it off to 911 though. So if you call 911, I'm still going to get your latitude and longitude. Okay, really briefly, because I know you got a lot of people. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Your notes here, are there anywhere online so that we can share this with our neighborhoods?
I can put them online, or I can send them certainly to you guys so they can be posted. That's absolutely no problem. The article isn't mine. I got it off the internet. Vanessa, okay. Okay, yeah. I'll get it to somebody somehow, somewhere, because it's valuable information. The bottom line of when you call 911 is listen to what the operator is asking. Give us a brief snippet of what happened. I just saw this, and then let the operator lead the questions. We are 2 separate centers. I have the police side, and then the fire department is located on the other side of a wall, so they're co-located with us. If fire is needed or medical is needed, we transfer the call over to fire. We stay on the line during the call, and if fire completes their questioning, which they're going to ask you the address again, it's a good double check system, and once they ask for the address again, then they're going to go into giving you pre-arrival instructions, those kind of things. If it's strictly a medical call, we're going to hand the call off to them and we won't stay on the line. But if it's a combined response where both police and fire are going, police have to go first, we stay on the line until officers get there and clear the scene. That's when fire can go in. Ma'am, you had a question.
Yes, how much of this system is software dependent that may be upgraded or may fail?
How much of the city of Albuquerque 911 system was just upgraded in June of this year? The outage that I had on September 16th at 1340 hours, that outage was external equipment to my center. It was CenturyLink equipment that's aging out. It was what's called a MUX, an office. So earlier in the morning, we had a transformer blow at Unser and Central, and then 4 hours later, the cards failed in the communications office of the CenturyLink equipment. The 911 equipment is legacy equipment. 911 started in 1968 in Alabama, and so it's very robust and strong technology. The technology got ahead of us. Cell phones weren't in anybody's minds. Satellite phones weren't in anybody's minds. So a lot of the infrastructure, and in our state, our infrastructure is aging, and CenturyLink is working on upgrading and replacing it. When we had the phone outage, all the 911 calls were sent to Bernalillo County, and we sent staff to Bernalillo County. We still had responses. 242 cops, we just finished a traffic study, and we're going to be implementing a solution so I can call forward my 242 cops calls to somewhere.
My husband and I own New Mexico Fire Protection, and we provide a lot of different services, which include fire alarms, fire sprinklers, extinguishers, backflow, fire door inspection, which is now required in some nursing homes, and we also provide camera installation services. We do this mostly in commercial applications, and I've been talking with Jerry about the possibility of doing some security camera work at a homeowners association or perhaps other places like that are having trouble with security. I want to just share a little story with you about how I know that having security cameras is so important. Now, we put up cameras in our office, outside our office, inside our office, and one night I did get a call from a close family acquaintance of ours, and he said, "I think there's some police activity down on your street." He drives a cab and he noticed it, and he said, "You may have something on your cameras." So we didn't really do anything about that. We slept over the night, and when our guys got to work in the morning, 8 o'clock, the police came to the door and they said, "We'd like to see your camera footage if you have it." So they sat and we found the camera footage, and the fellow who had been on the moped, who had been chased by the police, and he turned and pointed a weapon at the officer and he was shot and killed. Our cameras captured that footage, and I think another business across the street also captured that footage. And that footage was really important because the police were able to capture that footage, copy it. They were the first ones to really look at it with our employees. And so we were able to help clarify what happened because of that camera footage, which is really, I think, an important thing. So if any of you have camera footage, you might help a neighbor, you might help a friend, you might help someone that's just driving by. So keep that in mind, that cameras are a really good option. Burglar alarms are great, but people break in, the alarm goes off, it calls the police respond, but we don't know how long it will take them. Cameras capture things, burglar alarms just alert, okay? So I'm going to turn it over to Steve and Marcos. Marcos Gomez is our lead technician. I'm very proud of Marcos, he does a great job.
So we were asked to come and give a demo on the cameras that we install. This is different styles of cameras that we install. Depending on one of the cameras here, I can enlarge and still see what's going on. These do have zoom footage, so if I was to actually want to get a closer look on somebody, I can draw a box around that person and actually enlarge them. You know, they are, each one is different. We were told, you know, homeowners associations might be looking at this to recognize license plates and stuff. That is very difficult for our cameras in the state of New Mexico. The reason being is we have reflectance on our license plates. So during the day, we can pick up the camera, or we can pick up the license plate, not a problem. We could put it in the back of the room, and I can pick up actual footage of where he's at, no problem. You know, we can actually read the footage as it was to drive by. The problem we run into is at night. If we were to actually turn off all the lights, the infrareds reflect off our license plates. where it blurs them out. And that's where we start having issues. I mean, you see, once all my infrareds turned on, I can't actually make it out. And that's just,
It's funny, you can read the back of the plate.
we can read, yeah. And it's difficult because if I just had one camera, I turn down the infrareds on them to kind of bring out that picture of the license plate. I'm not saying it's going to be the perfect picture, but we'd be able to make out at least 4 to 5 digits of what that plate was. You know, they make specialized cameras that are designed just for license plates to recognize vehicles and plate numbers.
Has anybody been through the Border Patrol down near Las Cruces? You'll see there's a whole stack of cameras there when you go through, and it's looking at your plate. If you're on a tractor trailer, you're sitting way up here. You're in a car, you're way down here. So that's why they have all those cameras, to get all of that.
So at the end of the day, it goes down to what you guys are looking for, what you want to capture, what your needs are. You know, I can sell you the sky, but if it's not what you need, it's not what you're gonna get. Yes, sir.
I got a neighbor down the block. He's got a camera over his garage door, goes to his cell phone.
Yeah.
You approach the door, he knows somebody's there. You
Yeah.
do that? Stuff like that?
Well, this stuff like this, so this is neat. This system here, let me get into my menu. I have here, I can go into exceptions and stuff like that. So if I was to move a camera on accident, I can have it sent as an email, and I can actually have it bring up the footage on your phone. So there are multiple options on what these systems can do. Yes, sir.
You need an internet connection for the cameras.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do your cameras automatically switch when it's dark to infrared and then back?
Yes, sir.
Light it up?
Yeah. Like I said, let me get out of this. As you can tell right now, we're not in infrared.
That's all I'm doing.
I'm not touching the system, and it's doing its own thing.
If you look at the cameras, there'll be a red glow around them. You can
Gotcha.
just barely see it.
Yeah, they're doing their own thing. And like I said, these can be programmed to notify you if something was done.
You can see the footage on your phone. You can
Right.
go in and say something's missing off the desk. You can circle that area and it will search and find out when that changes. Otherwise,
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
sitting there looking at 10 hours of film trying to figure out where it is. No, just search for this. Find out when my car is going out of the driveway. Bing, it'll go right to it.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have wireless solar?
We do have wireless solar. Now, there have been some issues with it. So when you go into wireless product, we have to tell you to boost your upload speed. Because once we start going wireless, you have to be able to boost and push enough pixels per minute to actually see it. Because if we don't have enough powerful enough internet, it's going to get real glitchy, and you're not going to be able to make anything out.
You understand that. What does that mean to me? My wireless router has to have a certain speed.
Yes, ma'am. So,
Also another issue, if you live in Santa Fe Village up by Petroglyphs, the
Yes, ma'am.
lava absorbs a lot of your signal. You lose a lot of your power from the internet there.
So-
Well, a wireless camera, if you make the camera wireless and you have a photovoltaic to charge the batteries, it's expensive. But as long as you're within line of sight of the unit, you know, you're not really going out over the World Wide Web. It's a local area
Right.
network just there. So yeah, we would have to look at that. We've had trouble with adobe walls that are so thick that we have trouble getting a signal through it. But then there's always the option of going cable. I'm not a wireless guy. Too many things can go wrong.
yeah, I mean, wireless is great. It saves time as install. But the problem is with wireless, it can be moved. I mean, if somebody decided it was low enough down where they can move the camera and take it out of the mesh netting, now all you've done is lose that camera. Hardwire, which I like personally, I'm a big fan of, it's more difficult. You can start taking out the camera, and by the time you cut it, move it, I already have a picture of who you are and what you've done. Because they can take the camera, the footage is on my DVR, which is located in a separate area. Yes, sir.
Terry spoke a while ago about you guys were thinking of going into doing homes.
I mean, we're not against doing homes.
where I was coming from was, when and if you decide to do homes, say the 4 or 6 critical cameras, what would be the approximate cost of something like that?
Yeah.
So what I like to do is I like to make the system for every person differently. I don't know what you're trying to capture. A 4 to 6 camera system can be different from my 4 to 6 camera system that I want in my house. It all depends on what you're looking for and what you're looking to get. If you're just looking at all 4 cameras outside, that could be a different range. The bullets, the bigger one here, this is what I call a bullet. Those are going to be a different price than the domes, our vandal-proof domes, which is this one here. It all depends on what kind of style and what you're looking for. If you want it to be seen, if you don't want it to be seen, there's multiple cameras on what we can do.
We're a commercial company, so our systems generally start in the $5,000 range. But this is actually a small system. This is something that we put in at our house or our landlord or our shop. We don't normally put anything in this small. Usually it's 16, 18 cameras in a nursing home. So I would say right now our minimum is about 5,000, but that's pretty expensive for a homeowner. You can go to Harbor Freight and buy a camera system. I mean, good luck seeing anything on that in a year. This is higher quality stuff, much higher quality.
Yeah, guys, the reason I wanted you guys to present tonight is because one of the things that I've recommended to the Petroglyph Homeowners Association, and there we're talking about 3,000 homes, and I forget the number of entrances that we have in and out, but we're probably talking about 12 ways you can get in and out of the neighborhood. And working with, because they're owned by Western Albuquerque Land Holdings, we figure they got enough money with Barclays Bank that they ought to be able to buy this. Okay? I'm more than happy to ask them to spend it. So this is our purpose, to cover the neighborhood so we can capture what comes in, what comes out. But I think depending on how much you have to protect, $5,000 may be cheap in comparison to what you could lose out of that house if you have an expensive gun collection, if you have whatever collections you have. So I wanted to get the information in your hands, not that there aren't less expensive ways to do this. You can have the nosy neighbor, which is me, and I'll look out for it if I can. Okay? But I wanted to expose you to this because what you're seeing on the screen, most of your inexpensive devices won't give you that clarity. And that's what the police need to be able to identify who it is. Yes, sir.
You talked about internet speed. What is the recommended internet speed for a wireless camera?
On average, your upload needs to be 100 megabits per second.
100?
100 megabits per second, yeah.
Okay.
That's upload speed, not download, yeah.
Next question is, do you guys do free estimates?
I don't know. I haven't done any.
Free estimates.
Well, right at this present time, I would say we probably would be hard pressed to find time to do a residential application.
Okay.
But if you were interested in that, then we're always willing to quote, and we never charge for quoting. So that would include us, we could come out, take a look, see what you were talking about, and we could probably give you a quote. I would hate to be deluged with a lot of that because we're very small. And we're trying very hard we're really busy, we're super busy, which is a blessing. So, but yeah.
When you guys mentioned it starts at $5,000, does that include I keep the equipment?
Yes, it's your equipment.
It's mine.
Yes.
Who maintains it? Who does the maintenance?
Well, there's really no maintenance on these. That's what's great. So if you don't save your footage, it dumps and overrides it. It's an automatic burner. So say 2 months down the line, you're like, oh, I don't need that footage. It's already overriding it.
I saved the incident of the policeman shooting the guy on the moped and then let it overrun. So it's not at my shop anymore, but Terry has it on a thumb drive somewhere.
We can do thumb drives, you can do DVDs, however you want to burn them, it can burn them. It's your job to back it up and then it just overrides it. And we'll teach you, if there was a system you wanted to buy, we'd teach you how to work it all. And this one's very user-friendly.
Can we have one last question, please, and then I got to get on to some other things.
Are you running into any privacy issues with your development? We're talking about these sort of security cameras in our lot community, and there are people that are concerned that a kind of mass recording of license plates in and out of development could be objected to by some of our residents.
Haven't crossed that bridge yet with the Pentecook homeowners, but when we do, as we get closer to them actually looking at something, I'd certainly let you know. And I think some of these applications for a neighborhood, if you have a park in your neighborhood, and one of the things you'll find is that lights in parks at night, even though there is a 10 o'clock curfew in the park, you need people out of that park at night, but if there are lights there, when I was with Park and Rec Advisory Board, a lot of them will shoot out that light or hit it with a rock and knock it out. Now, they do make lights that you cannot do that to. I don't know if you have protection devices on your cameras.
Yes.
Yet somebody can't shoot that thing out or.
Yeah, they're vandal proof. I mean, what we call vandal proof, but they're not 100%. If somebody wants it, they're gonna take it. Yeah. I mean, I have a gated community I live next door to, and they have, I think, 24 cameras on their entries and exits. So it's not unheard of. I've seen it there before.